Hello everyone and welcome to the 2021 Annual Board of Directors meeting for the TireRack.com Champ Car Endurance Series. Now before we get started, you'll notice in the description below are links for the bylaws, the document we're going to be going over today, as well as the BCCR, which is the rulebook for Champ Car, and a link to the ChampCar.Live website. And with that, we'll hand things over to the board chair for Champ Car International Incorporated, Mr. Tyler Pedersen. Tyler?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Annual Board of Directors meeting here for ChampCar International, doing business as ChampCar. Tonight, what we're going to go over is where were we last year? The pandemic 2020 year, what happened in ChampCar, and then really what's happened this year in 2021. We'll end the meeting with petitions, which I'm sure that's what you guys are all here for, is to really find out what we've changed for 2022. So the first couple of slides, what you'll see here is the statement from Dana Morrison, who's our current CEO. This is found in our financial statement report, which is public on the ChampCar website. And so I wanted to just make sure we're aware of where this is found. Kind of Dana goes back to last year and kind of describes what has happened in 2020 and really what we are looking forward to here in 2021 as well. I wanted to introduce all of our board of directors this year, and every year we elect positions within the board. That is all collectively as a board, we elect who's going to be the chair, who the president is. So I myself am the board chair this year. Bruce Mills is our vice president for the year. Jerry Anger is our treasurer, who keeps our financials in line. Tiffany Alexander is the secretary, and she is also a commentator on our ChampCar.Live. She makes sure all the meeting notes are done correctly. Doc Waldrop, he was part of iRacing and was a commentator for us. And so just wanted to recognize him tonight on that, because he had a big part in this meeting, and want to just recognize him. Chris Huggins, who's one of our newer board members, is part of the technical advisor committee. And then Mike Chiswick is just Mike. So previous CEO that was on board, and just appreciate all of his guidance this year that he's brought on to Dana. So really, so then what do we do as board of directors? What are we doing? We're holding monthly meetings. So we do hold first Tuesday of the month, we hold a monthly meeting. And really our biggest role is within the club is overseeing the club CEO. So we're in communication with Dana a lot. We're making sure we're all on the same page, delivering the correct message to the membership, and just make sure we're all on the same page. We monitor the club's financial health. So we do that with our accountants and with Jerry at the helm. We ensure member safety as well. And then we also write and amend the club's rules. So those are the big four items that we do as a board. There's a lot more other things that go into it, but mainly those are the four items. And want to go down to our mission statement next. So really our mission for ChampCar is to provide affordable amateur endurance road racing series to North American auto racing enthusiasts. What does that mean to me? Come race your car in our series. We're the most affordable. We're willing to not have a license and just come get you on track. So that's what it really means to me. Next, I'm going to hand over to Bill, and he's going to talk about the marketing efforts that we did in 2020 with the pandemic.
How you doing, guys? Jerry, you got to turn off your mic. All right, guys, my name is Bill Strong. I'm the marketing director for ChampCar Endurance Series. This year, or last year in 2020, we started off really strong with our ChampCar.Live. We continued our success in 2020 with the pandemic lockdowns in place. We were able to keep ChampCar in members' thoughts while allowing them to watch and listen to the races going on around the country as we came back to racing and as facilities and states opened up. ChampCar.Live also broadcast the iRacing series during the lockdown with Paulie and Doc heading that part up, and it did actually really, really well. For 2020 and 2021, new broadcast equipment was brought into service, and to make for better, clearer, more reliable show, Paul Veltum continued on as the ChampCar.Live producer and brought the production value and quality to levels never before seen in Champ Car, though we're still pretty far away from, CBS and whoever else out there. Doc Waldrop, Tiffany Alexander continue to provide valuable content to the show throughout the year, helping to increase the show's audience. And in February of this past year, we brought on F1 commentator Bob Varsha to the ChampCar.Live show, which was a huge success. And hopefully we'll see him again with our show in the future. ChampCar.Live continued with AutoZone as an advertiser, as they have become an integral part of our show. And Champ Car's most prominent shows were, again, Road Atlanta, Daytona, Charlotte, Indy, VIR 24, and Sebring. And back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Bill. Next, Sim Series. Wanted to touch on that a little bit. This was our third year of the Sim Series. Went very well. 16 rounds were completed. And I think the big thing to recognize within the Sim Series is iRacing was huge during the pandemic, right? So people went out, bought their wheel and their pedals, and we did a lot within the iRacing scope. I know we did a couple races that a lot of our competitors competed in, and it was endurance races within iRacing. So really just a cool way to bring the community together during a pandemic, and also let people race wheel to wheel, just virtually, and just get some practice in. I do want to recognize Alex Albert for his win. It seemed like it was a dominating win for the season, as he won 11 of the races, which is pretty awesome. So I challenge you guys here in 2021 to challenge Alex and get your iRacing equipment out. Yes, things are opening, but dust it off and see if you guys can compete for some iRacing. And then next is the shows. So in 2019, we did quite a bit of shows like SEMA, PRI, Petit Le Mans. But in 2020, with the pandemic, we didn't really go to any shows last year. So we did save some money doing that. And I know that we've got I possibly got some shows coming up later this year, doing some of that as well. 2020 was another year for new partnerships and sponsorships. So we brought on UUC and NLA Parts. And then we also brought on, I think, Bell as well. We brought Bell on again to finalize that. We also continued our relationship with Frozen Rotors. And a lot of our sponsorship contracts are actually coming up this year. So we actually put a lot of people on 3-year contracts. Those are coming up this year. I think all but maybe 2 are coming up at that point. So looking forward to going out and talking with the current sponsorships to see where we're heading for 2022 and how they can partner with us and help our series out. Bill did a great job on bringing in some other sponsorships. The Maxxis Tire sponsorship was all Bill, and getting those discounts to the members. And also the AutoZone sponsorship for the ChampCar.Live show, Bill brought on. He's got great relationships with them. And thank you, Bill, for your efforts on that. He also did the Grassroots Motorsports magazine. Bill is Mr. Media King, and I appreciate all that he's done. And Dana, he got his first taste at some sponsorship this year and brought Krispy Kreme back. And so thank you, Dana, for your efforts there. There's not a Krispy Kreme around me, but I wish there was. So love the donuts. But wanted to pass over to Jerry now, and we're going to talk about the 2020 financial statements.
Okay, guys, can you hear me? All right, good. All right, well, it wasn't a great year, but considering the fact we went through COVID, we actually did okay. We lost about $29,000, and baked into that is a $57,000 PPP grant, because Dana did finish up the forgiveness, so that is all forgiven. So for the year, if you take that out, we lost $87,000 approximately. But most of that, or almost all of it, was in 2 races, Indy and Coda. On top of that, we have about $150,000 in cost savings in 21 versus 20 on top of those money losing races that we ran. So we should be in great shape this year. Matter of fact, I think there's only one race right now we have a chance to lose money at. That would be Willow coming up. I think it's this weekend or next weekend, isn't it? So it's coming up. But anyway, to get back to the numbers, then revenues were down, but the costs were down. And this year, what you'll see is a lot of a big drop both in revenues and in expenses because COTA and Indy are our two most expensive races, and it isn't even close. And due to COVID, almost exclusively, we lost participants coming up to the race. I think for COTA, we at one point we had 100 people signed up for it. We wound up with maybe 60 that raced. It was quite a bit down. And Indy, same thing. We sold that thing out, and then by the time we raced at Indy, we had dropped like 30 people. So and we try to treat everybody fair in the organization. So we gave people race credits for those. So that was money that the series lost. We're not putting those races on this year, but I believe they're going to be back on a rotational basis in the future. So, we could go back to COTA or Indy next year, or maybe the following year, and then have one each year moving forward. So people will get a chance to race those tracks in all likelihood. There's no guarantee of that, but in all likelihood. But to put them both on the same year and have people drop out really hurt us financially. On the balance sheet, if you look, we still don't have any debt except for the money owed to the series founder. And that number is down to 87.5 at the beginning of the year. In other words, 3 years from now, that will be zero. We'll have that obligation paid off completely. It'll be behind us. And then that's cash flow back in our pocket. So that'll really help. But right now, again, even though we didn't have a great year, there's no debt. We didn't borrow any money from PayPal or from anybody else, not even a working capital loan. So we're in pretty good shape. Like I said, Dana is very conscientious when it comes to spending money. We didn't go to SEMA this year. We won't go to Petite Le Mans, as far as I know. We still have all of our sponsorship. We'll see what happens next year. But this is a year to make some hay, build some cash up, and I think we'll be able to do that. Like I said, we don't have money losing races out there, so we should be in good shape all the way through the year, even without a new PPP loan. So anyway, I don't know if we're going to do questions and answers now or if we're going to do them later. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works exactly.
We'll do them later. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and open up your YouTube or Facebook or wherever, and ask the questions in the chat side. You can also ask them on Facebook in the board of directors, or just text me at 434-996-6721, and we'll get your questions answered. Thank you.
Yeah, and to finish up then too, if you look at, there's other things that are happening, like we depreciate our assets fairly quickly. We'll be within 2 years having a lot of that stuff fully depreciated. We may need another vehicle, it sounds like, but we're in fine shape to do that and add that vehicle. And yeah, I guess I'll just leave it open for questions from there then. I mean, I can go through, but you can see with the numbers. There might be questions about specific numbers. Just let me know. The big question I have still going forward is sponsorship for next year. And for this year, we're set. We're in great shape. This is a good year, like I said, to make hay, put money away, and then we'll see what happens next year. So I know that was quick, but I don't know what else to say about it. I do think that we're fiscally quite responsible right now, though, going forward, and I have absolutely no worries about getting through this. This also being a COVID year, we shouldn't have any problem getting through this financially and being actually great shape going into next year. So that's it. I'll turn it back over.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for all the effort you do on the financials and explaining it, and we appreciate all that. I will mention though, our PPP loan is forgiven, so thank you, Dana and Jerry, for getting all that work done and getting that forgiven, and so that's just great to do. So I want to go over kind of what our goals and accomplishments were last year in 2020, and really just throw everything out the window when COVID happened, right? So I think the biggest goal and accomplishment we have was getting through COVID. So we maintained running 78% of our events despite the challenges in 2020. And it's really the biggest thing that Mike Chiswick and Dana Morrison had to deal with last year was tracks adjusting to COVID rules. So they would get called 2 minutes, or not 2 minutes, but a day or two before saying, hey, our restrictions have changed, or, going to NCM, or we didn't go to NCM, that got canceled, a couple days before. So there was a lot that happened and a lot of time-consuming items that happened last year that Mike Chiswick and Dana Morrison dealt with, that I think we still had a successful year, losing only 29,000 in a COVID year. I mean, that's amazing. That's awesome. Still being here as a club and keeping our members. I think that's just a great accomplishment on what we could do last year. So that's what I'd say our biggest accomplishment was from last year. The next one I want to talk about is digitizing tech. So I know we started doing that towards the end of last year, and getting into it. And so really having a very good success in 2021 with that. And I'll get more into that here in the next couple of slides, but it's really helped the efficiencies with our at events, races, keeping people, the tech speeding up and get into more of that a little bit. So we transferred the CEO. So Mike Chiswick gave the board his recognition. In October, I believe it was, we had to go out and hire a board of director, or hire a CEO, and we chose Dana. And Dana's done a great job with the transfer of the CEO role. I know Mike and Dana really sat down and went through everything. And so that has officially happened. And we also split out the CEO and the chair board within the bylaws. So that was voted on last year by the membership. So that's a big, important item. So those are now split up in the bylaws. So the two separate positions. And then we also continue to keep track fees flat for the past 2 years. And that's with the help of sponsorships. So we get an increase every year from our track saying your fees are going up and there's nothing you guys can do about it. And so for the past 2 years, we have not rose any event fees at all. So that's a big success. So to come keep racing with us, it's stayed fairly flat on the expense side to get into races. And so that's one thing that we want to make sure that we're listening to you guys. We're trying to keep the racing affordable for you and bring in those tracks that you guys want here in the United States and North America. And then the last item we had was we welcomed Chris Huggins for the new board member for 2021. So Chris has done a great job to start out with. He's taken the bull by the horns and really has led the tech in the technical advisory committee and making sure we were staying on top of some dates. And so thank you, Chris, for what you've brought so far, and look forward to what you got for the next 2.5 years. So next, we'll go to the 2021 Champ Car update. So in 2021, what we've done so far, and we're almost halfway through, I can't believe we're almost halfway through the year. But we've expanded our track offerings. So we've got a couple new tracks this year that we're going to, and we've taken some of the bigger tracks off. So we're going back to Mid-Ohio, Audubon, Hastings, a couple of those races, CMP, one of them as well, sorry. A couple of those racetracks that we have wanted to go to, and we're now going to get offered, offering those to our members. And we're seeing a lot of higher attendance rates at those smaller venues. So it's been a big plus for us so far this year. We kind of varying the race lengths and formats to make sure we offer the best formats for the racers for this year. So you'll see the 8+7s, you'll see the 24s, you'll see some 14s, I believe, and maybe a 12-hour in there. So, and then the other thing that we want to do is regional championships. So we announced the Midwest Regional Championship provided by Money Shift Racing. And so that's hitting 4 of our Midwest tracks this year. And it's really having a competition within the series. And it's trying to bring those Midwest teams together so they don't have to go too far out of their home base to be able to race at the tracks that they want to race at. I know something is going to be announced here shortly for maybe another regional championship. So stay tuned for that. And so looking forward to seeing how those are how the members like those formats. So please let us know if you like those, want to see more of the regional championships. But so far this year, we've done a great job, and really the attendance has been up. And Dana and Chelsea have been doing a great job running the races and providing the service that we have to make sure everyone's safe and has a great time. I'm going to throw it over to Bill. He's going to talk a lot about what's happened in marketing for 2021 and maybe what's going on for 2022. So just want to throw it over to Bill.
Hey guys, thank you for asking questions on the on YouTube, and we will answer those questions at the end of this. And so don't think I'm ignoring you. I'm writing them down. The marketing department of Champ Car focused on 5 areas in 2021, and we're looking at 2022. We're going to increase marketing on social media platforms with less focus on print media. I've already started that this year. Now that we're back to racing, we're going to increase the Champ Car swag store sales via more product offerings. We've already started work on that. We're going to update the look and feel of the online registration system to better integrate it with our main website, which had a redesign in January. We're going to kind of give it the same look and feel that we have on the main pages. Once the states start relaxing pandemic restrictions, which they pretty much have since we wrote this, we're going to restart our marketing efforts in the post-COVID world. We're going to advertise a Arrive and Drive team showing ready-made solutions to racers that want to go racing but don't have a car or the skills to make a car. We're going to continue that program, and obviously more stuff. And I'm going to send it over back to Tyler for our technology goals.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And I know Bill's been working hard on with Tire Rack, our main sponsor, and they've really they've really hit hard on their marketing team as well. So I know he's got a good relationship with them and all of our sponsors to make sure our sponsors are well marketed within the series and that we're meeting all of their expectations as well. So technology goals, the big one is digitizing tech. So for me, like I went through this at Road America. I thought it was pretty slick. So went online, registered my car, and I did my tech, and I was like, man, this is really cool. Got to the racetrack and went through tech within probably 15-20 minutes for the safety. I probably wasn't even that. I'd say 10 to 15 minutes. Ray and Thomas did a great job looking over, and then they're like, you're done, and went to registration. And it's really picked up efficiencies within our tech line. We've been hearing you guys, I don't want to wait 2 or 3 hours in the tech line. Some of that might happen at Daytona or Road Atlanta because we've got 100 plus cars to tech still. First time of the year, so just be patient with us. But we're trying to speed up the efficiencies to help. So when you're at the racetrack, you're not in the tech line all the time, or you're not in registration and doing a lot of things. So I feel like the digital tech has really done a lot of good tools to help pick up the efficiencies and make it just more fun at the races. So also we did on with tech this year is that really they're looking at safety items. You as a car owner or the team captain are responsible for putting in all of the modifications to your car. So you guys are taking onus of that, and really tech is there to look at the safety this year. And then the post-race impound is where members can petition parts on the car, or tech can get a little bit more in the details on what's actually on the car. So and then I also want to say Flagtronics has been testing a lot this year in 2021. James Ballinger and his team have been at a lot of races, and I think they've got that system pretty well spot on. That we'll be able to offer that here shortly, or Flagtronics will be able to offer that to us and to the racetracks we go to. So next, I'm going to throw it over to Chris Huggins, and he's going to talk about the technical advisory committee, and then go into the petitions. And I just want to mention on the petitions that we all as a group talked about these, and some might not agreed on them all. They weren't all majorities, and that's what we were glad to hear the voices on the board. So just want to make sure that we all did participate. It was a great talk in the petitions, and so I'll leave you at that and turn it over to you, Chris.
Hey guys, so the TAC, I want to introduce you guys to the TAC. It's a group of volunteer racers who support the board and the tech team, giving us technical advice, expertise on specific car minutia. For 2021, I was elected by the board to be the TAC chairman, to interface between the TAC and the board and tech, try to provide direction to the TAC and focus our attention on the hottest topic at the time. So the TAC's mission in general is to provide the manpower for research, some random question about a car that maybe nobody's an expert on, or a really specific detail, does this bolt actually come on the car or not? So those guys, they're all experts at pretty much everything. They'll go and look up tech manuals and pull up diagrams from the manufacturer and help us figure this out. On the tech desk, if you put in a complicated question, it doesn't just fall on tech to try to figure it out. They can, the easy ones they can hit and knock out right away. The more complex ones, they'll come to us and say, hey, can you please give us some additional expertise, help us figure this out. So there's 8 members on the TAC this year. Me, Drew Nab, Black Magic Motorsports, Andrew Johnson from Arbeck Racing, Roger Cohn from Birmingham, Rob Greenwood. We brought him on this year. He volunteered to join the TAC this year from Final Turn Motorsports. Ben Schout from Bavarian Mustache Works. Evan Horner, who owns Wingman Wings and drives for pretty much anybody he can get in the car with. And Mike Coppola, who is going to drive his Focus sometime soon. He keeps telling us he will, but mostly he just helps us on the TAC. So that brings us to why you're all here, I'm sure. And first time they're gonna throw me in the deep end and give me the funnest part. So here we go. So 84 petitions this year, 16 different members put in, and we put out to the club to give us their thoughts on it. So we got 51 responses out of 4,400. So that's only 1% of the club, really. Of the 84 petitions, 12 of them were approved. 19 petitions dealt with race procedures. We gave these to Dana for review. He can include as appropriate. About 54 dealt with suggestions on VPI or rule clarifications. 11 were safety concerns. So safety, enforcement, and impact are all primary considerations when we're looking at these. The whole board looked at these. We met multiple times for many hours and had extended conversations about them. And we had a diverse group of opinions. We didn't necessarily always agree. We absolutely didn't always agree, but we all agreed that the majority would rule. We voted on them, and this is what we came up with. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce to talk about tires. I think you're on mute, Bruce.
Sorry, guys. Hopefully you can all hear me. 9 of the petitions expressed concerns over excessive tire usage. And as Chris mentioned and Tyler mentioned, we had multiple meetings to discuss the 84 petitions. We dedicated a whole meeting to discussing the tire issue. So it received serious consideration by the board. So the end result is that all manufacturers 180 treadwear labeled or higher, 200 or above, are legal. And because tire replacement during a race can be a safety issue, for instance, Jay Leno drove my Z car at Auto Club Speedway a little over a year ago and flat spotted 4 tires down to the court. Now, there are situations when there might be an accident during a race, and that can happen. So when it comes to limiting a team to only changing 1 tire or only changing 2 tires, that could be a safety issue. And for that reason, we didn't want to go that direction. We do, however, acknowledge that teams who abuse tire changing frequency for a performance gain is contrary to the spirit of ChampCar and contrary to what our organization is about. So at this point, we're going to be leaving it to the race directors to make a judgment call. And if they believe that, teams are abusing tire changing frequency, they will contact the teams and take steps to alleviate that or remediate it. So that's, I don't know if Dana wants to add anything to that, but that's where the board is at on that. So Chris, you want to take the next one?
Yes. So instead of going over all 84 petitions, we decided we'd shorten everybody's night and only talk about the ones that we voted yes to. Go into a little bit of detail on those. So the first 8 are on this slide, and these were we said yes exactly as written. So the first one was a petition about BMW gearboxes, and this came out of a tech desk question, actually a couple of years ago, about specifically the E36 and E46 gearboxes. The tech desk said that you could swap in, there's a ZF gearbox and a GetTrack gearbox, and one is better than the other. And the tech desk said you could swap in the better one if your car didn't come with it. And that's contrary to the rule book. And so we wanted to go back to, as the rule book is written, no model specific exceptions. So we're going to take away that tech desk ruling. The second one, there were two petitions on this. They're for coolant expansion tanks. We discussed those at length. The performance gain was considered minimal, potential cost reduction. So if you have a car with a pressurized coolant tank, you can swap it over to an aluminum version for 0 points. The third is hood vents. We decided that if you want to put hood vents in your hood, they will be 0 points now. If you just want to buy some plastic ones off of eBay or go to JC Whitney, you don't have to cut up your hood with a die grinder anymore. Number 4 is aluminum flywheels. This was a two petition discussion as well, at length, carried over from last year's discussion. Got a little bit muddy, but in the end, if you want to run an aluminum flywheel, that's considered 0 points starting in 2022. Number 5 is kill switches. This has been a repetitive issue for teams that cross over from different series. Different organizations have different rules about where you put your kill switch. Our rule was very specific. It had to be in the center console. There were other orgs that said it could not be in the center console. It had to be within reach of an emergency personnel without having to reach their body inside the vehicle, on the cowling area or by the A-pillar, etc. So we're going to adjust our rules to be more flexible. As long as the driver can reach it when he or she is belted into the car, that's going to be acceptable. Number 6, extended lower ball joints. This is another tech desk ruling petition. This is one I put in actually. So if you run a car that has aftermarket option of different ball joints that would help you adjust camber or caster, there was a tech desk ruling that said you could use those ball joints for 5 points, and that didn't match up with the ruling for aftermarket camber caster adjuster apparatus as outlined in our rules. So it was an unusual exception. So the board voted to take that exception out of the tech desk and go back to the way the BCCR is written. If you have an apparatus of any sort, including extended lower ball joints to adjust your camber or caster, as it's written in the rules, I believe if it's homemade, it's one value, and if it's purchased, it's a separate value. That's how it will be applied. Number 7, 74 is a petition on camshafts. It's been confusing in the past. I think it's been applied in both ways. Some cars, domestic cars, you need lifters and valve springs to even put any sort of camshaft in. So that moving forward would be applied as if you purchase the camshaft points, then you get those parts as well. And then number 8, drive-by-wire throttle bodies. This is becoming a more prevalent issue as we accept newer and newer vehicles into our series. Depending on what ECU you have, if you're trying to run the factory ECU, if you have a lower budget aftermarket ECU like Megasquirt that can't run a drive-by-wire throttle body, you're kind of stuck. So your options are either buy an expensive aftermarket ECU or run the stock ECU and the stock throttle body. So the board decided that it made a lot of sense to allow you to replace that drive-by-wire throttle body with a manual cable-driven throttle body as long as the diameter is equal or smaller to the original throttle body. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Bruce to the next 2.
So there were two petitions that the board was in favor of with some minor refinements to the wording. Petition 52 dealt with rain lights. Rain lights are optional, but they're certainly a good idea to have them, during daytime running. So the wording is revised to state that the rain light use is limited to daylight hours, and that during daylight hours, the rain lights would be configured to be steady on at all times, except when braking, at which point they would turn to a flashing, blinking light. So, and then as it turns to nighttime, the rain light needs to be turned off. So this should improve safety, but won't drive you crazy at night. So then the second petition is number 63, the idea of a rolling annual tech. As we move toward digitizing tech and taking advantage of technology, this is something the board absolutely supports, but we need to work out how it would be implemented. And so it's definitely on the top of our list as something that's desirable, and we'll be working on that in the coming year. So Chris, you want to take the alternators?
All right, alternators. I get all the fun ones. Racing alternators. So this was something else that came out of last year. We had two petitions on it, and the board discussed it and ruled that we're going to set the rule that if the alternator came on a car on the VPI list, then you can use it, 0 points. If it's a specialty aftermarket super racing alternator that's going to make your car lightning fast, you have to pay 10 points to use it. The second one, this one was another long debate. I'm really glossing over the peaks of this. I apologize. Aluminum radiators. This one has been on everybody's hit list for a long time. So it was implemented a little bit last year and it was confusing. So we came back to the board still feels that aluminum radiators fit within the spirit of the series. If it's a normal radiator, so a 1-core or a 2-core radiator, you can use it for 0 points. If you're buying some super exotic 3-core unobtainium radiator, then you need to pay the existing rule for 30 points. So we're going to clarify that in the BCCR, make sure we don't put anybody out to dry, so to speak, like last year. Try to be inclusive with that. Number 24 on the head and neck restraint rule. This came out of some enforcement questions. The expiration date of your Hans device was not extremely clear in the BCCR as written currently. For seatbelts, for helmets, there's lengthy wording in the rules stating that after so many years, that device needs to be replaced or recertified. For the Hans device, we're going to rectify that omission and put in the rules specifically that those devices require a current SFI or FIA cert. And if that device is expired, you need to either have it recertified or replace it. And lastly, oil pan points. These points will be reduced to 20. Right now they're set to 25. So that's a 5-point reduction. We felt that 25 was a little bit high for these devices. They serve a similar function to coolers, increased capacity, additional cooling. So we decided to lower their points by 5. And with that, we'll get on to the last 3.
So the board voted no on the following 3 petitions, but with some disclaimers. So if your car has power steering as OEM equipment, you can continue to run it. If you have a car that does not have power steering and you want to add it, the current BCCRs talks about electro-hydraulic power steering. That's a little bit confusing. I think there's a number of aftermarket electric only power steering units that you can purchase. I run one myself, and those any power steering, aftermarket power steering that's added to a car that didn't originally have power steering will be assessed points. So the electro-hydraulic bullet will be removed from that section. Flagtronics, we're continuing to roll that out. There's been some successful tests this year, but the dates will be adjusted with regard to when it will be required. So I'm sure there'll be more information on the forum with regard to that. And then valve springs, as Chris mentioned, you know, if you are taking advantage of a camshaft and you get the valve springs along with it. But if you just want to add valve springs, you know, maybe you've experienced valve spring breakage or valve spring float or something, and you want to upgrade the valve springs, the board voted that those would be 10 points per engine if purchased individually. With that, I'll turn it back to Tyler, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. So, yeah, the next, so that's it really. I mean, I know that wasn't we didn't go through every petition, but we wanted just to hit on, hey, here's what we approved. Here's what we denied, but we're listening. We're hearing what you guys are putting in, guys and girls. We're hearing what you guys are all putting in, and we're listening to what is our mission statement. We're trying to make affordable racing to auto enthusiasts in North America, right? So we're trying to implement some of these rules to make sure we continue to keep the spirit of Champ Car alive and to really match up some tech debt stuff with some rules, and we're going to continue to do those items. So the next slide is going to be the documentation. So here's everything where the petition PDF is at, the bylaws, and the current 2021 BCCR version 3. And at that point, that's all we have for you for 2021 board meeting. And we will now take the question and answers, and your whole board's here. I know you guys, you can't see everyone, but we're all here live. So we will take these questions, and we're scheduled till 10 o'clock Eastern time. So that's an hour and 17 minutes. So we can go through an hour and 17 minutes worth of questions if you guys, if anyone has any. We'd be more than happy to answer anything that's on your members' minds. So.
All right. So the first question is from Vash Stampede. He asked, will there be any more 12-hour or 24-hour events in the future?
Dana, you want to take that one since you do a lot of the scheduling?
Short answer, yes with a but. Long answer, no with a maybe. We are looking at various formats. We are looking at another 24-hour event next year. Whether that will be the only one or there'll be two remains to be seen. A lot of times the lengths of the races are dictated by what's available at the track based on contract, noise, lighting, etc. So first we're looking at the tracks, and then we look at what's available for us to run there format-wise. And then from there, we decide what the format of the event will be. So that's why I say a couple different ways to answer that. But the short answer is yes, there will be more races with different configurations.
Okay, GS Racing asked, tech was long at the Glen as well, hours long. Anybody want to hit that one?
Things are in progress still. We have only been doing digital tech since the VIR race in the first part of March. It is working really well, but there are still a little bit of hiccups. Teams will show up and they've got their information entered improperly, or they haven't gotten the word yet that they need to do it. Or in some cases, they're a new team and they have some questions, and we try to spend whatever time is appropriate to help new teams get through the tech process without making the line lengthy and unnecessarily burdensome for everybody else. So it is still a work in progress, but if you look at the length of tech across all the races from the start of the year, the total wait time in the tech line has been down dramatically. We've had a few places where we've learned a few lessons about how to make it even more smooth, and we're implementing them. So overall, it is working, but yes, you are still going to probably come across a couple events where it is still going to be long. Please bear with us. And frankly, if you've got some good suggestions, stuff that's actually legitimately helpful, we are more than happy to hear it. So please lay it on us.
All right. Matt T asked a question about our additional championships that we've talked about, and we'll have more information on that soon. We're still working out some of the details, but we'll put that up all over the internet when we get it. And that's per our boss, Dana Morrison. Bulldog Racing asks, the tire rule is very ambiguous, but understand the point of view. What sort of penalties have been discussed for tire change abusers? He says hashtag RS4 for life. And be aware that there's about 3 or 4 people discussing tires right now. They seem a little bit upset, but
yeah, I can go ahead and take that one, Bill. No, go. So tires is so difficult, right? So we looked at a couple of different, I myself looked at, hey, what's WRL doing? What's AAR? So I'm looking at other series and seeing what they're doing to maybe see if there's something that ChampCar can adopt and look at that. But ultimately, I put in a tire rule in 2020 and said, hey, maybe 1 tire per pit stop or whatever. But ultimately the board is saying, hey, we feel that it could be a safety issue if you flat spot, or what if you flat spot all 4 tires, or what if you cord 3 or 4 tires? Like, how are you going to do that? And so we're trying to figure out the best way to do the tire solution. And we found that this year, we're not going to ban any tires, right? So we're going to leave it all up to manufacturers. There's a lot of good ideas, but ultimately we can come to a decision about how to enforce a tire rule. And so that's why we leave it as is, and we're going to leave it up to the race directors to say, hey, if people are abusing the tire rule or they're abusing the spirit of ChampCar, then maybe, yeah, we need to talk to them, and maybe we reduce the tires at the race. Nothing's really been talked about on any penalties or anything like that, but more to come, and I'll leave it up to Dana and Chelsea to make the right decision on those. So.
Yeah, I think to follow on that a little bit, where our heads are at right now is less about an in the middle of the race penalty. I'm guessing that's where some of the questions and the discussions are taking place. People are wondering what's going to happen to them in the middle of the race. Right now, our focus is on the organizations that roll up in their hauler, and they've got an entire separate trailer rig with them full of a variety of selection of tires for all conditions. And there's more tires than equipment and race cars in their rig. And that's going to be handled before the race. So that's kind of where our head's at right now, is taking swings at big, large, over the top tire abusers, as opposed to coming to you. If you're worried about us coming to you in the middle of the race with some sort of surprise penalty, please put your mind at ease. That is not where we're at. That is not what we're looking at doing. ChampCar is not doing that. We've really tried never to do that. We're not looking to surprise you guys anyway. So right now our focus is on talking to people prior to the race start about how they're showing up and whether or not they're fitting within the spirit of ChampCar.
Okay. Yeah, we had a big conversation going on between multiple people about tires, and you guys, I think, answered some of it, some of it not. Paul B says, so 4.3.2 will now read, and this is concerning power steering. Power steering conversion 10 points. He says, is this not a bit vague? Question mark.
I'll take that one. No, 4.3.2, the word power steering conversion, that will be omitted from that rule. And power steering will then fall under 4.7.2, which is items that are 0.3 or items that are 0.3, excuse me. So already in that section in the current rule book says power steering components are 0.3.
All right. Justin Lipson asked, FIA regulations state that, along with other budget racing series, state that the rain light be flashing under normal operation. Why are we adopting the opposite? Good question.
I can talk about that one too. Well, we're not the FIA. We're not professionals. We're amateurs. This is all low budget. We all don't have the same rain lights. We all don't have the same car. We have varying levels of speed. Some cars are going fast, some cars are going slow. We race in crazy conditions that range from mild sprinkles to fog that you could swim through. Flashing in a fog situation, especially with varying placements of heights. Even if we regulate, you got to put it by the license plate. Well, some people are racing a big SUV. The license plate is 6 feet in the air. Some people are racing a little Honda Civic with the license plate 6 inches off the ground. Flashing lights look like EV. When you come over a hill and you see a bunch of flashing lights in front of you, what are you going to do? You're going to slam on the brakes, and then the people behind you are going to back up too. So we decided that the rain light needs to be on solid if you choose to run one. If you don't choose to run one, that's still okay. They're still optional.
And I know the FIA regs are actually changing for the rain lights. I actually haven't seen them yet, but that may be part of how they change.
We were in discussion with Lifeline,
Okay, cool.
the rain light manufacturer, when discussing this.
Cool.
Yeah, and to mention and to hit on that is that we're not requiring rain lights, and we don't want to require rain lights. We don't want to require our members to buy additional items they're required. So that's the thing. If you want to run a rain light, it's optional. But here's what we want here's what we want it to do. So.
Okay, another question is there a rain light that you can buy that does what you ask, since the others do the opposite?
Yes, you can wire up any of the rain lights to do that.
Okay, and oil coolers. Why? What is it? Why no oil coolers? Which I think he's probably going back to maybe free oil coolers, and that's one of your teammates.
Yeah, it's because he has a cheaty Lexus. He doesn't need an oil cooler.
Bulldog Racing says thanks. This is on the tire setup. Thanks. It's hard, but appreciate the feedback. I look forward to the first infraction. Can ChampCar, WRL, and AER meet up and all do the same with rain lights so teams can transfer to and from each organization?
I mean, we can. So we don't want to require the rain lights. If y'all want us to require rain lights, it's fine. Like we'll put them in the rules, but we don't have to. We don't want to have every member have to put a rain light on. I mean, that's just the thing, is that we don't want to have people incur an extra cost. We feel that working taillights is good, right? If you feel safer to put a rain light on your car, then do it. I just don't feel that. I mean, I don't feel like it's a requirement, and maybe some of the other board members can jump in here, but. In our amateur series, I feel like with the spirit of Champ Car, it's not needed to put a rain light on. And if you do want to run one, this is what we want to happen. And as a board, you know, we've seen some pretty dangerous events where rain lights have been a factor, right? So fog, snow, rain, it's just been crazy at night where it's dangerous. And our one thing is to make sure everyone gets home safely to their family after a race. So this is one item that we feel that increases safety to our members, and that's why we put it in. If anyone else wants to speak up from the board, you're more than welcome to.
John Hurley says he seems like overall lighting of vehicles was an issue at WGI, and that would have been to give people an idea of what was going on. There was foul weather and rain, some fog, right? Wasn't there some fog? And that's what I think he's concerned about, is the lack of lighting during a day race.
So there's probably a couple ways to answer this. The first thing I would put out there to every member watching is we put in the supplemental rules whether or not headlights are going to be required based on whether or not it's going to be a night race. But this is endurance racing. So if it was me, I'd show up with capable lights on a car for every event I came to, at least working taillights and some minimal headlighting, something in case the weather gets really bad like it did on Friday. Friday was really the day at Watkins. That was a practice and test session. We ended up closing it down because of that. So I would bring some appropriate lighting anyway. This is endurance racing. Beyond that, it is incumbent upon you guys to prepare your car. And I would throw out there the caveat of, we need you to have communications with your drivers. So if it starts to get dark out there, or you've left pit lane without your lights on, we can come talk to you. You can call your driver and he or she can turn their lights on, so we don't have to black flag you and bring you in because it's creating a dangerous situation. So communication and just some basic rudimentary lighting on your car will go a long way to solving all of this discussion.
Okay, Halston Pittman's asked, would a solid rain light not be mistaken as a brake light then? It seems if blinking could be an EV, then a solid light is could it be a brake light? Question mark. And follow up, half the cars at Road Atlanta, you literally could not see them with their factory rear facing lights.
So Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about the discussion we had that the rain lights are daytime lighting and not to replace the nighttime lighting?
Sure, yeah. So Road Atlanta was a twice in a lifetime event where you have crazy fog at night during an endurance race and then snow on top of that. I was out there during the last stint, and I've never been that scared in a race car before. The glare became the major issue, and so one of the decisions that we made for this rain light rule, figures this would be the one that gets all the questions, was that it's designated for daytime. It's a daytime device. In the mist and fog of a rainy daytime race, it definitely contributes to additional visibility. If it's a EV or if it's a brake light, if you don't drive to it at high speed, that's kind of the goal, right? We don't want anything to come out of the mist at you going really slow when you're going really fast.
Okay. Cool. Troy Julio says, does the board plan on monitoring tires and tire use in the future to make a decision on tires and teams that use the high wear super fast tires to help control our cost? The cost creep is crazy with tires now, and being affordable is the key.
That's a tough one. It's tough to wrangle in all the tires, right? There's new ones coming out all the time. There's more tread wear coming out. In my opinion, it's up to, I still run RS4s in my car. I'm not going to get in the tire war item. If you want to go test your tires, it's fine. But what was more of that question, Bill? I'm sorry.
Does the board plan on monitoring tires and tire use in the future to make a decision on teams or tires that a decision on tires and teams that use the high wear super fast tires to help control costs? So basically, I think he's like, are you guys going to be watching or keeping tabs on the teams that are using super fast tires?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get some reports from Dana. If he's like, hey, X, Y, and Z team are changing 20 tires a race, then yeah, we need to have that discussion with that team. If you got a team changing maybe 8 tires over the weekend, then that's not an issue in my opinion. That's the cost of racing. If that's the tire you want to choose to use. So, if you look at it, Bridgestone RE71Rs are out of production at this point, and you've got a lot of newer models coming in. The Coopers are coming in. Maxxis has theirs. You've got actually a Hoosier and Continental tire coming out as well. So you got a lot of new manufacturers coming. Yeah, we're going to take a look at those. We're going to see if those are faster or what. But we don't want to ban a tire, and it's up to the tire manufacturer to say what dot rating that's up to. So 200, 180, right? So we can't change that. We can only enforce that as well. But as far as we just can't come up with a good tire rule to make sure it's fair to everyone, to make sure that we're not banning any tires or anything like that. It's hard to do that at this point and still continue for people to race and have a good time. So I don't know if any other board member wants to discuss that.
Yeah, Tyler, I'd like to add a comment too to that. This is Jerry. The problem is we get into a whack-a-mole situation if we ban one particular type of tire, and there's always going to be a hot tire. So do we ban that next hot tire? Okay, well then what about the next one? Is that the new hot tire? We have to ban that too. We don't want to get in a situation where we're banning specific products or specific items because it just becomes unmanageable. And also there's some teams that need specific tires for their car to make their car work. So we ban that particular brand. Well, maybe only 20% of the cars used it, but those cars wanted that tire because it worked with their car. Otherwise, they're wearing tires out at a much faster rate. So we've heard all these arguments. That was part of the problem in implementing a tire rule overall, was that there's drawbacks to every single rule you can think of. So then, and I posted on the YouTube thread too that we were close. Hold on, who's honking? We were close to getting a rule through, but it was only 1 tire at a time and then another minute penalty for any additional tire. We didn't quite get there. Maybe someone can repropose that and we can discuss it again next year. So I'll kick back, Tyler. Sorry.
Tyler, one other thing, if I might. with the variety of track surfaces that we race on and the variety of temperatures that we race at, any tire could be subject to some pretty severe wear. I guarantee this weekend at Willow Springs, when it's 107 degrees, that a set of Hankook RS4s are only going to last 2 stints. They're going to be gone. And that's normally considered a fairly durable tire. So that, as Jerry said, the board discussed this at length, and it's a very difficult issue. But the main focus is going to be people that pull in and put up their air jacks and change 4 sets of tires with their pneumatic guns at every pit stop. And that's something that Dana is going to be on top of and having discussions about. And, you know, again, people have black flags, people have all sorts of things at their disposal to use as encouragement to get people to play fairly.
So I'd like to chime in on this too, if I may. The whole point is that, you know, we're an amateur series. We all just want to go out and have fun. You know, it's competitive. There's so many great teams and great racers, and that's part of the fun. But we want to keep it within the spirit of the series. You know, we're not IMSA. We don't need teams coming in and using their air guns and their air jacks and their NASCAR pit crews and changing tires every pit stop or every other pit stop. That's not an amateur low budget series. And that's what our motto says. That's our goal, is to put on an affordable race series where everybody can come out and race and run at these great tracks. And there were so many tire rules, and like Bruce said, we spent a whole meeting talking about them, but every single one, you know, while yes, it could stop the high end teams from doing that, it would also conversely affect some of the lower budget teams where, you know, hey, if these guys are running tires that, you know, they've run for 3 races before and it's just getting close to the end and they want to change that tire, well, hey, can they actually change that? Or are they going to have to go out there and jack the car up with a spare tire jack out of the, you know, the OEM trunk jack and use the lug wrench to change it? So, you know, that's not fair to those guys either. So we just said, you know, hey, we can't make a rule for everything that captures everything. Let's just use some reasonable judgment here and try to keep the racing affordable and within the spirit of the series. And you can still go out and win on RS4s.
Or Maxis. You can win on Maxis. Want to stress that because Maxis is going to be at Willow Springs this weekend. If you need tires, pop us an email. We'll see if the 2 guys coming out can bring tires in their trunk. I'm kidding.
Don't you get a discount for those as well, Bill?
Yes, all members get a discount. Your discount code is in your membership page where you sign up for a race. Just click on your print ID card in that section there, and you'll see your discount codes there. All right. Charles Coleman asked, and this is probably for Dana, but he says, or he asked, are 14-hour races determined by the track or the board? Having more 14-hour races would help budgets and expendable costs.
So that's a really interesting statement because for every person that tells me they want to run 14 and 24s one day and done, there's another person that tells me they want to run the 7s, 8s because it requires fewer crew members and they can go to dinner and relax and repair their car and have another shot tomorrow. So this is going back, what, Mike? I think it was like 2013 or 2014. You and I started sitting down with teams at the races. We pulled a couple aside and talked to them. And we heard the exact same thing going back all those years. Half the teams want to run the 1-day long full formats and the other half of the teams want to run the 7. So what we try to do is give you a selection of each as far as what track runs what format. Again, like I say, it depends upon what track we're allowed to do it at. Some place like Laguna Seca, there's no way where we're going to run a 24-hour race there or an after-hours race there. With the sound restrictions and the local regulations, it's just not possible. A track like VIR that has almost no local restrictions at all as far as running at night, no sound restrictions, no nothing. And when I say sound restrictions, I don't mean excessive noise. I mean issues with the neighborhoods where they have to have quiet hours and whatnot. we can run just about any format we want there. So it's really driven partly by what's available for us at the facility and driven by how many of whatever other format we have. If we're thick on double sevens, we'll try to add 1-day 14s to balance it out. If we're thick on 1-day formats, we'll look for the opportunity to do 2-day formats. So we try to balance it out to give every one of our racers the format they enjoy at the tracks that we can get to.
John Hurley asks, can you review minimum lighting so that cars have braking, running, and headlights for every event? I think that's more of a petition, isn't it?
The lighting rules are pretty clear in the BCCR. The number of headlights required for nighttime events, the number of taillights, working brake lights. If you don't have working brake lights, you're going to get black flagged. You have to come in and fix it, and then you'll be able to go back out and run some more. And that's affected races, so make sure you get those working properly.
Yes, it has. Chris Graham, are there any future plans to use RFID system of some sort to track cars and drivers like AER and WRL do?
No.
They're getting a lot of screen time, aren't they?
No, Flagtronics is the system we're going to. It uses a different baseline for their technology, and that's what we're going to be using is Flagtronics.
And Charles, thanks you for asking or answering his question about 14-hour races. Let's see. 3 people are still going on about tires. Are snow tires going to be allowed at Road Atlanta next year?
If they're over 180 tread wear.
No, I think you should offer. I think you should offer one set, and they can't be studded.
Stop talking, Bill.
Especially after 2 snow races.
It just helps our show. I mean, come on. How see an endurance race? I'm just looking at the market share.
Tires on Jackie's pace car, then come talk to me.
They're slowly coming. We've got more. If you guys have more questions, when is Flagtronics full implementation planned?
So there's a couple of things with that. The first thing we have to do is make sure that the system is as bug free as we can possibly get it. The second thing we have to do is figure out how we're going to make sure it works at every different type of track we go to, which means number of antennas, repeater locations, etc. We're still trying out some of the different tracks. Having a clear line of sight to the antennas at tracks that have elevation changes is going to be an issue. And the last thing is the Flagtronics guys have to get their software designed in such a way that we can download it on the ChampCar's computers. Because ultimately, when we go to this, it's going to be our timing and scoring people running the Flagtronics system. The Flagtronics staff will not be coming to every race to run it for us. So once they get their software developed to the point where we can download it onto our computers and our staff is trained and ready to use it, then we'll roll it out. I would like to get full implementation by 2022. That doesn't mean the start of the year. It just means in 2022. But a lot of it depends upon how quickly Flagtronics is able to refine their stuff so that they can basically turn it over to us and we can run it. Right now, they're testing everything. They're beta testing stuff. And because they're the guys that wrote the programs, they're able to work through any issues they have. To use the old military acronym, it needs to be designed by geniuses to be operated by idiots under adverse conditions. So once they meet that standard, we'll be ready to go.
All right. Yeah, the question was about Flagtronics, that does not track the driver, but we're not tracking drivers. We're just tracking the cars. Farron Davis asked, how is the long-term sponsorship forecast looking? And Farron Davis actually races for RVA Graphics and Wraps and works for them as well, or works for the main.
Yeah, so as far as I know, everyone's been pretty happy with the 3-year contracts. I'd like to get in front of everyone here in the next 30 to 45 days on seeing what the renewals look like for another 3-year contract. TireRack's been super happy with the relationship that we've brought with them. And it's just been a great relationship. On that end, I know RVA, Frozen Rotors,
Bell,
UUC, NLA, everyone's been super happy. We did lose Willwood, so that's why we lost Willwood last year. and they didn't want to renew. So that's why we picked up NLA and UUC in replace of them. And I'm hoping that we can bring some more people back. If not, that's why I want to talk to these sponsorships within the next 30 to 45 days. So that gives us another, 4 to 5 months to find some newer sponsors if need be. And we've got a lot of people interested in some event sponsors this year, and really people we're still trying to bring on other companies to partner with for the rest of the year and into the future.
And for those that don't know or haven't looked, if you could go to your ChampCar.org, go to the ChampCar.org website, you can log in to your user account using the login and register button, or the tile. Log in there, and when you go into your account, like you're signing up for a race, you can go to your the ID card section, and you pull up that page. There'll be a discount code for AutoZone, where you can save some money when you shop there. You can save some money on some Maxxis tires. They have a really good program right now, which I've actually participated in. Tires are shipped very quickly to my home. You also have a free subscription or free sample subscription to Grassroots Motorsports that you can get. And we have more stuff coming, hopefully, and for members. And Farron says, great to hear. Thanks for the hard work, guys. So Troy says, if we're doing well this year with the finances, can we just pay off the debt to the old founder and be done with it so that we're debt free in the future?
So the problem with that is it transfers all of our functional and operating capital over to him. It's the exact same amount of money, whether we give it all to him now or whether we give it to him in little bits. If we were to hand it all over right now, then we're out all that much money. And if we need to purchase things, operate, pay bills, we're just simply out. So it behooves us to pay it at the rate we're going. We're this far into it. It actually makes better financial sense for us to hang on to that money in case we need it. We do have the options to defer a couple payments. We haven't had to do that in a while. So it just makes better sense to continue to pay it out gradually.
Yeah, and let me add as a treasurer that Dan and I have talked about this multiple times over the last few years, or last year, I should say. Mike and I talked about it before that. If we have a lot of money at the end of the year, we certainly could earmark it, maybe put it in a fund to pay down that liability. Let's just see where we are at the end of the year. There's no hurry. There's no obligation to pay it any faster. But if we're loaded with cash at the end of the year, it might not be a bad idea, depending upon what happens with future sponsorships. So we'll see what happens going forward, right, Dana?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll say with just the end of the initial 3-year agreement with Tire Rack, we want to make sure that we have enough cash available in case they don't renew. There is two years. There's an option to renew for 2 years in the initial contract. So we'll look to see if those options get exercised, and then we'll look at maybe save up, see how much cash we have saved up, and look to advance that debt down a little bit more, like Jerry and Dana were saying. So they are on top of the books really well and are doing a good job with it.
We'd like to, while we have everybody watching, all 70 folks now, it was up to like 75 at one point. If you guys have any tech questions, you can always go to our ChampCar.org/tech. That's our help desk. And you can ask your questions on there. All the questions are reviewed by our TAC and also by our tech folks and our CEO. Okay, Troy says, good answer on paying the debt. That makes sense. He just hates having debt. There we go. Paulie just put up the where you can ask questions at board@champcar.org if you have any board related questions or questions related to this presentation. And anything else like anything else like you want to reduce the VPI of a Opel GT, you send that to info@champcar.org, or any general questions. And I'm joking about that. I don't need any more points. Tyler, your clock's about a minute slow, I'm being told. Can you fix that?
Yeah, and I want to take this time right now, and I want to thank just all the board members and Dana and staff for all their hard work this past year through the pandemic. Also, special props to Paul Veltum for putting this on and what he does behind the scenes. I know he does a lot of hard work, and I just appreciate what you do, Paulie, and Bill. Thanks for all you do as well. So, if we don't have any more questions rolling in here in the next couple minutes, we can just go ahead and end early. So.
Yeah, it looks like they're slowing down. Like I said, folks, you can download this whole the whole document that we used in the links below in the description. We'll also have those up on the forum and the websites here within the next 48 hours, probably in the next 20 minutes, but I have to.
Well, if we're going to sign off, I just want to say thanks again, Doc, for all the hard work he put in, and he will be sorely missed by all of us. He was a good friend, and he was a great board member, and I just can't believe he's gone. Neither can anybody else, but anyway, just a shout out to him. That's why we're all got our Brew Crew shirts on, and I just finished a Pabst Blue Ribbon. Thank you, Doc, for everything, wherever you are, buddy.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's part of ChampCar.Live, Doc did a lot with us and spent a lot of weekends with him, sitting too close to that old guy. But had an absolute blast with him. And I know Paulie's had the same amount of fun, if not more. Frustration mainly, right, Paul?
No. I think it was you we were frustrated with, Bill.
Oh, yeah, that's always the case. All right. I think I'm not seeing any more questions there, guys. So let me
to follow on to the appreciation, the unsung heroes of Champ Car that don't get it. Thanks to the people in registration, the volunteers that come on the weekend to help out, wear the reflective shirts up and down pit road, the guys in tech who have the least envious job in the whole org. All those people, we couldn't go racing without them, and we couldn't do this without them. So they deserve a huge shout out as well.
Yep, looks like that. Like I said, if folks have any more questions, you can email them to board@champcar.org, info@champcar.org, or if you have tech questions, please post them up on champcar.org/tech at our help desk, or tech desk as we like to call it.
All right, Tyler, so is this meeting adjourned?
This meeting's adjourned. Roll us out, Paulie.
All right, here we go, folks. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you at the track. Thank you for joining us for the 2021 Annual Board of Directors meeting for the TireRack.com Champ Car Endurance Series. We at Champ Car would like to thank all of you for making the Champ Car Endurance Series possible, and we look forward to seeing each of you in the 2021 season. For everyone at Champ Car, thank you, and we'll see you at the track.
Thanks for the heads up on